Hi, welcome to Comptroller's Corner. I'm your host, Pat Curry, joined as always by Buffalo Comptroller Mark Schroeder. Our top story today, the Comptroller is refinancing old school debt, a transaction that will save taxpayers more than $18 million. Now, Mark, this is similar to a homeowner refinancing their mortgage.
Exactly.
They
That's
take advantage of lower rates in order to reduce the amount of interest cost that the taxpayers will be forced to pay for this old school reconstruction debt.
Yeah.
How did this deal come about, and how important is it to save this kind of money?
That's a very good analogy, what you share with the viewers. The only thing that you have to add to it is that there would be a callable date. And so that would be determined on when the original bonds first were executed. And so this particular bond that we're doing, a 2009 A series bond, it is callable. So last November, I reviewed this with my management team, with our first deputy, Ann Forti-Sciarrino, and also with Greg Szymanski, who's our debt management officer. And so at the time, Patrick, last November, we decided not to do the refunding, because there's certain things that we look at. The present value has to be at least a minimum of 3%. The present value, had we done the deal last November, would take us at about 6%, which is okay, double what the standard is. And it would yield the school district approximately $8 million to their capital ledger side of the sheet. So we decided not to do it. We could wait. Then, several months ago, when that vote took place in England, the Brexit vote, where the UK decided to leave the European Union, that and some other things created some unintended consequences. And so we reviewed and looked at the numbers again, and the present value jumped from 6% to 12%. And then at the end of the day, rather than just bring in $8 million to the school district, as you said in the beginning, this is over $18 million that will be going to the Buffalo Public Schools capital side of the ledger sheet. And so it was an important decision that we made. I'm glad we made it, and the whole refunding will be completed by October 12th.
Now, the $18 million, that's a savings that'll be realized over about 10 years, with some savings in certain years coming in over $6 million per year.
Yeah.
Now, this is money that the school district would not have to use to go to the bond market. So in other words, if they were looking to do some construction on some schools to maintain some of the improvements that they made, they would not have to go to the bond market because they have $18 million in savings.
Absolutely.
And that would save interest costs on top of
Yeah.
the $18 million that was already saved.
Exactly. And so over the last 5 years that we've been in the Comptroller's office, we have brought in approximately $100 million or so for the Buffalo Public Schools. Therefore, over the last 5 years, I have not gone to the bond market, not once, for the Buffalo Public Schools, which I usually do go every year, as you know, on the city side. But on the school side, I haven't gone because of very successful refundings. And this will be another very successful refunding. And then, to your point earlier, the school district, we can work with the school district and we can decide in what years they really would like to see this revenue, and they can even decide on 2 or 3 years and then some out years. So we have flexibility for the school district in terms of what their overall capital plan is.
Now, you mentioned previous refundings. Since you've been in office, just almost 5 years now, there has been over $120 million worth of savings with both the school district and the city, and that has had a real positive impact in reducing our debt burden and certainly reducing our interest costs by over $100 million.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And Patrick, one of the things that's very important and for the viewers to know is that I understand the demographics of our city. And so every time we do a deal, we are very mindful of who our partners are going to be. And we have done MWBE, minority and women participation, every single time we've done a deal, new money or refunding. Just recently in this deal, we have Loop Capital and we have Siebert Cisneros and Shank. Both are MWBE firms. The second firm I mentioned, Cisneros, he is the former mayor of San Antonio and also was a HUD secretary during, I'm not sure if it was Clinton or after Clinton, but these are firms that have MWBE participation, and we welcome them into our overall deals.
And in the big picture, this actually could save taxpayers money in a different way, because if this money wasn't saved, there could be a possibility that tax rates could be increased, and in order to pay for these bonds and pay for these obligations that the city has already made years ago. Now with all the savings, there's less likelihood that the city or the school district would have to raise taxes in order to pay for this debt.
That's exactly right. And also when we go through this process, Patrick, we do send the information to, in this particular case, to 2 of the 3 rating agencies. And what they do is they do a quick look just to make sure nothing drastically has changed financially for the city or for the school district. And we have earned, as you know, upgrades over the last several years, at least twice over the last 5 years that we've been in office. And so nothing has changed with that rating. We received that same rating for this particular deal. So yeah, you're right. These are important decisions that the management team of the Comptroller's office, along with the Buffalo Public Schools, and then we do have professional outside consultants that we do use for their expertise, financial advisors, because we want to make the best decision not only for the city but also for our students in the Buffalo Public Schools.
Now this goes along with your aggressive approach to managing the city's money. We see it on the investment side. You've always been looking for new options to maximize the amount of return the city gets on their investments and their cash. We've seen that on that side, but you're also looking in instances like this, where we saved $120 million over the course of 5 years. You're always looking at ways to lower the interest rate on our debt. So you're trying to get the maximum amount of interest on our investments, and you're always looking to get the lowest amount on our debt. That's part of your aggressive approach, and you're looking at every opportunity to save taxpayers money.
And the truth be told, maybe one of the future shows we could do a little graph, and we could show the citizens on how we have really made significant progress. I also listen to what some of the rating agencies are saying, and it's not time for us to go out in front of City Hall and do a high five. We still have work to do. That is one of the reasons why we are so aggressive and clear, and we communicate well to the Common Council and to the mayor so that they understand we have to continue on a very conservative fiscal road so that we never have to go back to the time a decade ago or so when elected officials were no longer really running the government. The control boards were. And so we have a responsibility, and we're going to continue it.
Speaking of the rating agencies and debt, I wanted to talk about another report your office issued recently. Now, it's called the Comptroller's Estimate and Report, and it's a way for the Comptroller to show where the status of our capital accounts is. Capital accounts are money we had borrowed to fund specific projects across the city, capital improvements. And it also gives an opportunity to provide recommendations on moving forward and how much debt to issue moving forward to fund our capital improvements. The big picture of your report said, while the city has made great progress reducing their debt burden, and in part due to some of the refundings that you have completed, there's still, according to all 3 rating agencies, there's still some progress to be made, and the city of Buffalo's debt burden is still too high on a per capita basis. In order, for the rating agencies to give us an upgrade, we would need to do something to continue to reduce our debt burden. Now, that is important because you recommend in the report not to increase the amount of debt we go to the market for by over a certain amount. You're saying $20.8 million
Right.
is the limit
That's
about
right.
going to the market, just because you don't want to see a situation where Buffalo, after making all this progress, goes to a situation where our credit rating could go down. So in order to preserve our A+ ratings across the board,
Right.
you want a prudent and fiscal approach to our debt.
Yeah, and so I must say, I mean, there's times where I have to constructively criticize the mayor and the common council. In this particular case, especially over the last 5 years, because quite frankly, we in the comptroller's office, we have changed the game. We've changed it. Past comptrollers would always borrow the same amount of money every single year and $5 million every single year for the school district. We already talked about that in the last little segment. We don't do that anymore because we've been very successful working with our partners in doing the refundings. Over on the city side, we just are not going to go to the market for 22 million or 20 million, whatever that ratio is that we're looking at, because we know that sometimes, most times, the city cannot spend down the money quick enough in terms of IRS regulations and some other rules, right? So we've changed the game and we've communicated to the mayor and to the deputy mayors and to the common council, to the commissioners of public works, inspections, fire, police. We've communicated with them. In the first 3 years, we averaged only about $17.5 million in going to the market because I needed to have empirical evidence that they're going to spend down this money. And so we're going to continue that way. That's exactly what we wrote in the August 1st letter. And so we're trying to, and we have been flexible. In the past, we've been very flexible to the mayor, to the council, and to the CPC, the Capital Planning Council Commission. These are all citizens and volunteers who are trying to do the best to determine where capital projects need to be across the city of Buffalo. So we're working with others, but this is one of the very few times, Patrick, as you know, that I have the pen on this one. And I will not do anything that's going to put Buffalo in a situation like it was 10 years ago.
Now, you said in your report that you've been pleased with the progress the administration has been making on spending down those funds.
Yes.
It used to be a major problem in previous estimate reports, and now you've seen a great deal of improvement in that area. However, you still have to look at the big picture and the total debt burden for the city. And just because the city's doing a better job spending down the money doesn't mean we can be reckless with how much we borrow.
And I borrow less. I borrow less every year, less than other controllers. And so you're right. It's very important to see the whole picture. Sometimes people will come to these meetings and they only see it in a very narrow way, the way that
tunnel vision.
Yeah, and that's okay. I get it. That's why we have the responsibility in the comptroller's office to look at it in a very whole way. And then we also have the responsibility to be clear and communicate clearly to why we're doing certain things. Because we don't want to just say, we hear what you're saying, but we want to do it our way. We try to explain why we're doing it in the way we're doing it, and we're trying to get other people on board. Just like we did get the city, the mayor, and the commissioners on board to do a better job in focusing and telling us clearly how they're going to spend down the money for the capital projects across the city. They have made an improvement there, but it was at our insistence, and we're not going away.
Mark, we've got to take a brief break. When we get back, I want to continue discussing your estimate and report and the whole capital budget process.
Okay, great, Patrick.
Stay tuned for more Comptroller's Corner after this message.
The Buffalo Employment and Training Center is your one-stop source. The center conveniently brings employment, training, and other workforce services to customers and employers in a one-stop environment. And the center is open and free to anyone seeking employment. If you are out of work, not happy with your current job, or are looking to improve your computer skills, the Buffalo Employment and Training Center is right for you. We are conveniently located in downtown Buffalo at 77 Goodell Street with plenty of free parking. So, what are you waiting for? Give us a call at 856-JOBS. That's 856-JOBS today.
Hi, welcome back to Comptroller's Corner. We've been discussing the City of Buffalo's capital funding projects and how the Comptroller's estimate report, which is required by the charter, guides that process. Now, Mark, one of the most important things in the estimate report that you mentioned is the importance of including in the capital budget the grants and assistance from the federal government and the state government that have not been included in previous capital project plans. So, for instance, the city spends roughly $50 to $60 million in capital improvements, more than half of which is a result of some of these grants from the federal and state government.
That's right.
Now, when the capital plan is unveiled, it's usually around $20 million in debt. Now, debt is just one part of the capital borrowing is just one part of the capital budget.
Yeah.
It's not even half. So what you're saying is stop selling yourself short.
Yeah.
Show the citizens that, in fact, when you're spending $60 million on capital improvements, tell them that instead of saying the capital budget's only roughly $20 million or so.
Yeah, so that's a very important factor. And not only did we write about it clearly in the August 1st report, but when we went to the mayor's conference room with him and with all of his commissioners and the volunteer citizens group who have the responsibility in helping the mayor and the council identify capital projects, I made it very, very clear about that point, in that it's just not the 17 or 18 or $20 million that we're going to the market. It's the other grants that come in consistently year in and year out. They need to be able to add up what the total amount is and then project out to the citizens, to how much is being spent on a yearly basis, especially in the neighborhoods. See, that's one of the problems right now. When you talk about what is going to prevent us from getting a higher rating, and you talk about the debt ratio, that's important, Patrick. But the other thing that's important is what the rating agencies view as socioeconomics. And so we need to do more in the neighborhoods. And if we do, all boats will rise, so to speak. And that's what's important. And so I think the city and the council and the citizens group, they need to let the citizens know that there's a lot of money, not just from the Buffalo bond market, but also from other groups that come in to primarily help the city neighborhoods.
Right, because if there's a great deal of funding, especially by the federal government, the state chipping in for these projects, the public deserves to know how much is actually being spent to improve a particular street or a particular park, and by just showing how much we borrowed to fund these projects, really the city's selling itself short on all the hard work it's doing to improve those neighborhoods.
And quite frankly, it's not really my responsibility to do that. I'm forced to do it in this report because I don't see the administration and the mayor and the council doing it in a very clear way. So we do it, but we're prompting them to do it. And quite frankly, we should be doing it because we've got a congressman who has brought more money into Buffalo than any other congressman in Buffalo's history. And we go back to 1832. And there's some other members of Congress, United States senators, who also do the same thing. And then there are grant writers within the mayor's world who do a good job in attracting grants coming into the city of Buffalo. That should all be reflected, and that's what we're encouraging the mayor, the council, and the CPC to do.
And it's not going to require a great deal of work to provide those numbers. They already have the figures of information about how much of this will be matched by the federal government or state government. It's just a matter of including in the official capital plan that's submitted to the council every year.
Patrick, they do it on purpose because what they want to do is they want to try to put pressure on the comptroller to go to the market for more money. Well, guess what? I'm not afraid of anybody in City Hall, and nobody's going to pressure me because I have a management team that looks at the whole picture, and we're going to be consistent every day. I'm the comptroller. We're going to be consistent in doing it, best practices, in doing it the right way, and they can say anything they want to say, but we're going to continue to do it the right way for the citizens of Buffalo, period, the end.
Another thing that you want the Citizens Planning Committee to look at, in addition to the administration, is spending some general fund proceeds on these projects, especially ones that come up year after year.
Yep.
Now, for instance, there's several millions of dollars put aside every year in the capital budget for demolition of houses, tree plantings, certain improvements.
Yep.
Now these are things year in, year out. They're not specific projects. They're citywide. City spends millions on these year after year. It's the same thing every year.
Yeah.
So the question is, why are we incurring interest costs on these projects when we know it's not a specific project? It doesn't have an end date.
Yeah.
We know we're going to be spending this money every year on demolitions. Why would we incur interest costs on something that we could just pay for out of pocket? A homeowner looking at that, it would be like taking out a loan to pay your user fee or to.
No, it's a very good point, and gradually we have raised those points to the administration, and we're just going to continue to do it. I am satisfied that over the last 5 years, we have raised certain points, and we have got cooperation from the mayor and the administration. There's an old Italian term, Roma non fu fatta in un giorno. Rome wasn't built in a day. So I can't expect the city of Buffalo just to completely do what we want when we want it, but if we can convince them it's the best thing to do overall for the citizens of Buffalo, that's our responsibility, and we're going to continue to try.
For instance, the city of Rochester usually puts in about half of the funding would be general funds, and the other half of the funding for a specific project would be borrowed funds. So you're looking to other cities to see how they do things, because there could be a better way.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, because we have a staff meeting later today, and the last staff meeting we had, I raised that point, and I've asked staff to take a look specifically at Rochester because they're doing it different than Buffalo, and it appears to me that they're doing it in an effective way. So if it could work in Rochester, which is very similar in size to Buffalo, a little smaller but similar, we can do it here too if it's best for the citizens of Buffalo, and that's our job to kind of identify and then try to convince others this is the way we should do it.
Now, we've been talking a lot about the city's finances. One thing I did want to mention is that the city's finances have, as the viewers probably know because we talked about it several times in the show, is on a new web portal on your website. It's called Open Book Buffalo.
Right. Yep.
The citizens can look at the big picture down to the small little details, all about how the city's spending its money, where the money's coming from, who they're spending it with, what's it for, where's it going. They can search individual vendors, whether it be a law firm or a construction company, or employees, how much each employee is costing, how much overtime a department or a particular employee is making. It shows a huge amount of information to the city, and this innovative web portal that's available on your website, www.city-buffalo.com/comptroller. Now this Open Book Buffalo, this web portal, you're looking even to expand it even more, and you're looking to include some of these outside entities, these pseudo-governmental agencies. For instance, the Buffalo Municipal Housing Authority, the Buffalo Sewer Authority, Buffalo Urban Renewal Agency, some of these quasi-governmental agencies that aren't really captured in the city's financials, but it's the public's money and they have the right to know how it's being spent.
So I'm very proud of our staff, including you and Claire Waldron and others, for launching Open Book Buffalo late last December. And it's important not to be paralyzed with so much information. It's important to get started. And so we wanted to get started, and we did. And so for the first 6 months, I've been watching, and I know, Patrick, you've been watching, the number of hits and the number of people who are participating on this Open Book Buffalo to get information that helps them for whatever it is, whatever reason they need the information. It's their money. They should be able to get the information instantly. In this world, everybody wants to do everything instantly. And so we have a responsibility on the revenue and expenditure side to let the citizens see how their money is being spent. And so, as you mentioned, there are some other authorities and agencies that aren't automatically on our information service, what we call Munis. So we have to work a little harder to figure out a way to get it on this open book portal so that other people can see it. And that's exactly what we're doing. And it seems like every 3 months we have identified other areas or agencies that we want to put on this portal for people. At the end of the day, it is going to be enormous in terms of all of the information, and that's how it should be, and that's what we're going to continue to do. The Buffalo News editorial board wrote a very nice editorial about our staff for introducing this portal, this Open Book Buffalo, and encouraged others to do the same. And I encourage others to do the same too. The citizens of Buffalo have a right to know about their money.
And as President John F. Kennedy said, the very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society.
Yeah, no question about it. And so, we have a responsibility to make sure that it happens, and we're going to continue working. I have the best staff that has ever been assembled in the Comptroller's office, period, the end. And I know a lot of people say it, but I encourage you to look and compare the staff people that I have, the 9 CPAs. That is a record. It's never happened before. And I'm an amateur historian. I can go back to 1847 with the first Comptroller. I can name every Comptroller. I won't on the show. But I just want you to know that this staff that we've assembled is professional, and they know what they're doing, and transparency is our name. That's what it's all about for us.
We covered a lot. We're almost out of time. We have about a minute left. Now, Mark, you've known for your singing.
Please.
Now, we also found out that you recently have become known for your dancing. Now, you were involved in Dancing with the Stars. Tell us briefly about that event.
So I have nerve, Patrick. I'm not a good singer and I'm not a good dancer, but I go to every single neighborhood in the city of Buffalo, and Zion Missionary Baptist Church had an event a few weeks ago, Dancing with the Stars, and they selected me as one of the dancers. And I danced with my partner, Yvonne Evans, who is a wonderful, delightful woman, and we had a lot of fun. And we had some help. We had a teacher, Yvonne, Ernestine Wilson, who was our dance teacher, and Mary Miles Winter, who works for Pastor C.M. Jenkins at Zion. And we came in second place. So we did good. And if you go on the Webosphere, you could see me all decked out in a cowboy costume. We did a country line dance, but we had a ball, and we helped raise money for Zion Baptist Missionary Church. So that's a good thing to do.
Yeah, and a silver medal at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's good.
All right, Mark, thanks for joining us in Comptroller's Corner.
Thanks, Pat.
And thanks for joining us at home. Make sure to check out the Comptroller's website at city-buffalo.com/Comptroller. Of course, check out our Facebook page, our YouTube channel, and our Twitter handle. On behalf of Mark Schroeder, this is Pat Curry signing off.